I spent a significant portion of my life trying to prove to myself that I'm either not a loser or a pussy. When I got out of high school, I knew I wanted to try to become a Navy SEAL because if I became a Navy SEAL, that meant I was strong, tough, and masculine, which is the exact opposite of how I felt with someone with low self-esteem, with the eating disorder, with depression, terrible self-image. So I tried to go on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, as I've done a couple times in my life. I trained for years, literally, to try to get to the SEALs. Got in the Navy, went to my first duty station, trained, took all the tests, got there, and then literally the first day I almost died and I got medically discharged. Just to prove to myself I wasn't a pussy. That's how strong the motivation is for me. You know, years went by and I was lost and, I kind of went through the motions, went to college just to check the box because that's what you're supposed to do. Went to Thailand, got lost there, and then came back at 30 living in my grandma's basement. Unsurprisingly, I felt like a complete loser piece of shit there. So what did I do? I decided to become a doctor, get my PhD in clinical psychology. Because if I got that, that could prove to myself I'm not a loser. It's like, I have to pick the most difficult thing of the opposite end of the spectrum or else I won't believe it, almost. It's kind of how I kind of see it. Subconsciously, at least. So I spent years just to try to get into a PhD program. Volunteering, taking the GRE, working at research labs, dealing with nonsense. Then it took me 6 years to get the PhD. One challenge after another. It was very tough, very demanding. Also very rewarding. I remember in my grandma's basement, I'm sitting there, it's dark, probably a little bit moldy, I'm playing PlayStation. I was like, man, you know what? I would be set if I could just, become a clinical psychologist. I would have made it. That would be it. I won. And once I got the degree, I got the doctor in front of my name, and then I got the job, and that quickly dissipated, and I was miserable again. Right? Your mind is very good at projecting happiness into the future. Once I get X, Y, and Z, once I make this amount of money, I used to also do this with girls. If I could just get a beautiful girl and get in a relationship with her, I would be happy. And then that happens, and I felt insecure, I felt needy, your mind is always saying happiness is like 5 steps ahead. Then once you get there, you're feeling a sense of lack again, or you're feeling like, oh wow, this is not what I anticipated. There's a great quote I like. It's like, it's never as good or as bad as your mind makes it out to be. And it's so true. Because after I got the PhD, and I've talked about this in my last couple videos, I was miserable. I just felt like a cog in the machine. Again, the work I found meaningful, but the constraints of the job and the micromanaging and the lack of autonomy, I felt like a conformist. This is how sick my mind is. I was like, yeah, you know what? I got the PhD, but you know what? It was such a laid out path before me. All I had to do was work hard for 10 years. That's including undergrad. Or if you just count grad school, I just had to work hard for 8 years. 2 years of volunteering and then 6 years of grad school. I just had to do that and not quit. So that's like the sickness of the mind, like discounting the positive. It's a cognitive distortion in the CBT realm. But I felt like this huge conformist, and then I moved the goalpost again in my mind. Right? We have this like hedonic adaptation. We adapt to whatever we get, and then it's not good enough, and then we move on. So now the goalpost was, you know what? I need to trod my own path. Because now I'm a loser until I get rich. In my sick mind, I was like, I'm only making 160K. Even though that was, more money than I've ever made in my life by a lot. By like a factor of like 3 or like 4. But now, now I have a boss, so I'm a loser. Now I have to go to work every day and listen to other people, so I must be a loser. So what did I do again? My mind came up another goalpost. It's like, I need to become an entrepreneur and become a millionaire, or I'm a loser. So then what do? I picked designing a web app, a mobile app, with zero experience. And it was just another arduous path of me grinding for a year and a half. And then, 3 months, 4 months trying to market it, of just eating crap and then failing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the failure part. I mean, that's fine. And again, I've talked about this before. It was important for me to accomplish that. And so I've actually just scrapped the project. I'm just going to focus on YouTube now. But I thought about it, and that's what gave me the idea for this video. Is like, I spent a lot of my life just almost like punishing myself to try to prove to myself that I don't suck. And look, I don't think there's anything wrong with striving to get better. And I don't think I wouldn't have changed anything I've done, because at the time, hindsight's 2020. And at the time, I felt like I needed to do it to grow to the next step. Especially now, it's much easier for me to quit my job and move overseas now, when I had a doctorate, versus when I had nothing. Like with YouTube now, that's kind of my main, that's what I'm going to sink my teeth into. And you know what? If it works out, great. And if it doesn't mean I suck. And if it works out, it doesn't mean I'm a winner. I'm enjoying doing this right now, because I can be like authentic, I can be vulnerable, I can be creative. Like, so far, I haven't found it as a way to measure my value. And I haven't really had activities just to do them intrinsically for a long time. I was pretty imbalanced, which I think is okay for periods of time to get what you need, but I can't be the only one who's like cracking the whip on myself. I'm sure there's people watching this right now. You're like, why am I doing this? Do I really want to do it? Or am I just doing it to appease someone, or appease myself, or to prove to myself? So it's like, even now, I know the sickness, right? It's like, no, now I want $10 million. If I get $10 million, then it's probably going to want to be 20, 30, 40, 50. So I need to continuously remind myself just to be grateful for what I do have, and I encourage you to do the same. And I really try to do that. Like today, I'm really grateful I woke up without an alarm. I'm grateful that I had the time to go have a nice leisurely workout and walk at the gym. I got to listen to a book. I got a nice fresh squeezed juice afterwards. It was delightful. I forget where I read or heard this from, but it's like, life is not these highlight reels of vacation or achievement. Most of your life is these little moments that I've like done a poor job of neglecting for a long time. Just that like nice morning coffee, sitting there, meditating maybe, reading a book. For me, it's having the freedom today to make this video. I've won. And we can move the goalpost in our mind. So I encourage you all to be mindful of when you're moving that goalpost ahead, and what is the end. You can move it back. There's this concept of like upward comparison. Like if you compare yourself to, the person on social media with $20 million, you're gonna feel like crap. Right? So compare yourself to the person making less money than you. You're gonna feel better.